Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum everybody. I'm your English teacher Zia. I hope that you're doing well. I welcome you to English grade 11, my dear learners, students who have joined us here and who have joined us on Zoom classes. I hope that you're doing well. I need your attention because today we are going to cover a student's learning outcome. As you know, we are dealing with our unit number 2. This is our lecture number 2. So we are going to discuss capitalization and punctuation. Let's read our students' learning outcome. It's very much evident from here. And in the midway, if you have any kind of question, you can straight away put forward in the chat box or just raise your hands and then you can ask your question, or you can save it for later as well. Now, as you know that we have covered, we cover our students' learning outcomes in different competencies, and today we are going to learn grammar. And in grammar, we talk about actually writing the text correctly. Now, for that purpose, we actually take care of the punctuations, the different kind of symbols that and marks that are there in the text. And we also need to take care of the capitalization. So bear with me, it's very much important. It's a very practical and important lecture, and this will actually remove all the errors and ambiguities from your text. Now, the SLO says, demonstrate command of the conventions of standard English, capitalization, punctuation, and spelling when writing in different varieties of text. So now we need to show that we are very much efficient and competent when it comes to the standard English conventions, which means that when we are writing or when we are using the English language, we are actually taking care of the standards and the benchmarks that a language have. In this case, the English language. So we will be taking care of the capitalization, punctuation only, and we will deal with spellings later on, or they are somehow covered in this lecture as well. But our keywords, our most important keywords, are about punctuation and capitalization. So bear with me. Punctuation is something that you have been learning for all the previous grades. So it comes naturally, it's connected. You have to recall your prior knowledge and your understanding. Now, we will also observe hyphenation conventions, which means that we will take care of the hyphens. Hyphens are also your punctuation marks. Those are little dashes that you use in your writing, for example, in your compound nouns and so on. And we will also produce legible work that shows the correct spelling of the conventions of punctuation and capitalization. It means that practically, by using the activities, the homework, the worksheets, we will put that into practice, and we will produce a very good legible kind of paragraph or passage or any kind of text, taking care of the punctuations and capitalization rules. So let's talk about, this is our vertical linkage. Now, bear with me, students. I hope that you can see it on the screen. Please bring that on the screen. Yeah. It says to punctuate the following sentences using full stops and capital letters where appropriate. We know that capitalizing, using capital letters at the right place is very much important in the English language, in the sentence structure of English. And similarly, using full stops, which we use usually to end the sentence, they're very much important. They separate your sentences from each other and they give a complete idea. Now, here, this is a very quick activity. I want you to answer it with me, and students who have joined us online, you can raise your hand and put forward your answer. So it says, the man bought the newspaper. He was an avid reader of the Sun. Now, here, we know that the first letter of the sentence will always be capital, right? So we will capitalize the letter T over here. The man bought the newspaper. Now, he was an avid reader of the Sun. Now, we know that there is something wrong. These are two sentences, but there are no full stops. So let's put the full stop or period over here and then capitalize the H, because when we are beginning a new sentence, we will capitalize the first letter. He was an avid reader of the Sun. What is the Sun? It's not the sun we are talking about. This is actually the name of the newspaper Sun. So it is a proper noun. It has to be capitalized. The first letter will be capitalized. So this is how we corrected the sentence over here. Jill ran up the hill with Jack. They needed to fetch a pail of water. Now, Jill is a proper noun. So it has to be capitalized. J has to be capitalized. Ran up the hill with Jack. Now, Jack will also be capitalized. The J will be capitalized. Now, we are beginning a new sentence, students. So, T, capital T makes they needed to fetch a pail of water, and then full stop over here and over here as well. So in this way, you can see that I put the full stops where it was needed, where it was appropriate, and also I capitalized the proper nouns and nouns that are very specific. So we capitalize the first letter. Similarly, you can solve the rest of the questions by yourself whenever you get the PowerPoint presentation that I'm presenting over here. So put your understanding of the punctuation marks and the capitalization into practice. It's very much important. The more you practice, the more it becomes better and it will become a common thing for you. Now, let's see what is punctuation. Now, punctuation marks, we know that the full stop, comma, exclamation mark, brackets, hyphens, these are our marks and we call them punctuation marks. They are essential, important to language and the structure of written work. They are used for separating ideas from one another when one idea is beginning, organizing the text, and providing cues for the reader to understand the structure of the whole passage or of the whole sentence. Common punctuation marks, they are full stops, commas, question marks, exclamation marks, colons, semicolons, inverted commas, apostrophes, hyphens, dash, parentheses, and there are so many more. The rules and conventions of punctuation can vary among different languages and writing styles. So, not only English, my dear learners, but every language has these kind of conventions in their language, these kind of marks, punctuations, symbols to actually make the language, the written work, understandable. So, they are varying across the culture. For example, in English, we use full stop, but in maybe some other language, full stop could mean something else. So it varies from different languages. Now here is a list of different punctuation marks with their symbols. The full stop, this is a colon, comma. So all of these are given. You are already familiar with most of them. Now, first we will talk about capitalization. Because we added capitalization over here, this is also a standard convention of English and it belongs to the punctuations. Now, capitalization is the process of capitalizing or using the capital letter where it is needed in the English language. It means that the alphabet, all these 26 alphabets, somewhere they need to be capitalized and the rest of them should be in the lowercase. So capitalization is when we do the uppercase of any alphabet. So it's a very interesting process. Now let's see. The capitalization rules are numerous. There are many rules and quite often challenging. So, but with the passage of time and with enough practice, you can overcome these challenges. The following are the most common rules. Capitalization in the sentences. Always begin sentences with a capitalized word. This may mean changing numerals to letters. For example, now if you're saying that 135 votes were needed to win the election, now you cannot begin your sentence with the number. So you will convert that number, let's say 135, into the English version of that number. So we use 135 instead of 135. You cannot begin your sentence with any number. So you convert it into the English language. Votes were needed to win the election. Here, 1 is the first letter of the sentence, it's the first alphabet, and it is capitalized than the rest of them. Now, you see, all these pronouns, proper nouns, unique names, individuals, they are actually capitalized. Wasim Akram, Eleanor Roosevelt, all these are, and these are names of people who are specific persons. That's why they are capitalized. Then we have places, groups, languages. The first letter will be capitalized. The trademarks of company and names, or like Microsoft, IBM, Ford, or the historical events or periods, if you want to mention them, like Middle Ages, the Magna Carta was a very much important document, Declaration of Independence, or the Civil War. It's a very important historical period. Lists after colons. For example, our mother had rules for us. Now, all these rules are mentioned in a list, number 1, 2, and 3. But remember, all these words are, the first letters are capitalized in a list. Names of days, months, and holidays will be capitalized then, but you do not seasons or centuries. So when you are mentioning seasons, you cannot capitalize the name of the season. Capitalize the following words: the book titles, but not their prepositions or articles. For example, Gone with the Wind. You can see that the preposition or articles are not capitalized, but the important words in the title of the books or articles or any document, they are capitalized. Now, these are some generic capitalization rule that you need to remember in order to write correctly. Let's talk about punctuations, my dear learners. So I hope that everything is clear till now. You can type it in the chat box if you have any kind of question related to our students' learning outcome. All right, let's talk about each punctuation one by one. This lecture will be very much important because it covers all the possible punctuation marks with examples, with their right usage that you need to incorporate in your writing and in your written works. So they are very much important. Each punctuation mark, my dear learners, holds a very good significance. So you cannot learn some and just leave others. You have to learn all these important punctuation marks in order to write a very good text and very efficiently. Now for the full stops, we know a full stop is used to close the sentences. After a full stop, a new sentence starts with a capital letter. He appears to have an old head on young shoulders. It is the complete thought, and we ended it with a full stop. All that glitters is not gold. Now, full stops can be used after abbreviations in American English, like all these abbreviations, the contractions, they will be followed by a full stop. Now, the names of ships are both capitalized and italicized. Abbreviations like frequently asked questions, as soon as possible, NASA, states like UK, UAE, Alaska, and time periods, educational degrees, all of them will be actually capitalized, and they will also sometimes they will be using the punctuation mark full stop. Now, let's talk about commas. Now, commas, we know that they are used to put a little bit of period, a little break in the sentence. A comma generally reflects pauses in speech. We use commas in the following cases. We use it to separate items in a series or list. When we have different kind of nouns or different items, we separate with commas. We use it to separate pair of words of the same class. For example, rich and poor, high and low, men and women all gathered to meet him. So we separated these different classes with our commas. We use it before and after a word in the vocative case. For example, I don't know, Jamil. Now, I don't know is what you're saying, and when you're quoting the name, you use comma before it. We use it after absolute construction and the participle phrases, like the weather was nice, so we decided to go for a picnic. Now, between words and phrases in apposition, for example, Milton, the great English poet, was blind. Now, this is apposition. So, before and after the apposition, the word we use are commas. We use it before and after words or phrases like indeed, therefore, hence, and we use it to separate a direct speech from the reporting. This is very common. We use it to indicate omission. For example, to err is human, to forgive is divine. We use it to separate the date of the month from the year. She was born on September 11. We use comma and then the year. We use it to mark words like yes, no, well, etc. Whenever you're saying yes, he wanted that. So after all these words, yes, no, or well, we use our commas. Now let's talk about question marks. We know that they are used at the end of the sentence when it is an interrogative sentence, that is asking a question. They are mostly beginning with when, what, where, how, who, on all these words. So these are your question marks. So question marks are not used after indirect questions. Now when you are asking the question indirectly, you will be not using any kind of question mark. It's a very common mistake that people make, so you have to be careful about it. Now let's talk about exclamation mark. When you are suddenly expressing something, a very enriching emotion, and when you are actually expressing some emotion suddenly, strong emotions, then you will be using your exclamation marks that look like an upside down I. It is also used after a name or title when talking to someone directly. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then you put your exclamation mark, help me, oh Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then again, in the same way, now when you're quoting somebody directly, when you're asking for help, that involves your emotions and your feelings. They are strong emotions, strong expressions, then you can use the exclamation mark. Okay, for the colon, we use it before we quote somebody. For example, Mark Twain said it best. Then here, before the quote, before the quotation, we are actually using the colon. We use it between sentences when they are connected, but they are independent. So to connect them together, we use it. Man proposes, Allah disposes. So these are independent and we use our colon. We also use colons to introduce a list. Now, we use it before enumeration. The pies liked by Ali are. Now, we are giving the whole list. Now, here you can see the main points are as follow. Before introducing the list, we always use our colon. For the semicolon, which is as suggested by the name, it's a semicolon, but it has a slightly different function than the normal colon. It shows a pause of greater importance than that shown by the comma. It means it works like a comma, but in a very special way. Her coat was pure, her life serene. Here you are using the semicolon. You use it sometimes instead of full stops. It's going to be great tomorrow. We have paid all our dues. So, to separate the clauses of a compound sentence when they contain commas. For example, she was a lovely young woman and we all loved her. So, we are separating the clauses with different compound sentences when they are meeting together. Now, we know that apostrophe is something that we use for three main reasons. We use it to show shortcuts and contractions. Can't, which is cannot, it's the shortcut of cannot. We use it to form the plural of letters and figures. Words that do not usually have plurals sometimes have an apostrophe when a plural form is written. Let's discuss the do's and don'ts. So when the words that don't have plurals, but we want to relate them, then we will be using our apostrophes. We also use it to show possession and ownership. It's very much common. The cat's master loves his cat. It was her teacher's copy that she lost. Teacher's copy means the copy is belonging to teacher. The possession of the copy is to the teacher. Now, quotation marks, as you know, we can use them to quote somebody. When we are directly quoting somebody word by word, we are using the quotation marks. There are single and double quotations, and they are also called inverted commas. So you don't need to be confused about these two terms. Here you can see it is Shakespeare's quote, to be or not to be, from Hamlet. This is, I need to eat something right now, she cried. So we are quoting her directly. So when we are using the titles, we use single quotation marks. Hyphens, as you know them with the name of dash. Now, my dear learners, a hyphen can be used to link two words together to form compound nouns. Happy-go-lucky. This is a compound noun. We have used the hyphen twice. We use it to refer to physical quantities if the unit is spelled out and not what it is written in the abbreviation form. I had to carry a 60-pound bag full of clothes up to the third floor. So here you can see the hyphen is used over here and here as well. We use it with numbers to represent time frames, estimates of distance, and other attributes. Like, I'll read this one for you. They had informed us that the meeting would be held from 3:30 to 5:30. So it is representing 2 here, the hyphen. We are using it when referring to the age of people or things. One, our 4-year-old daughter. You can see that the 4-year-old is using your hyphen mark. When we are writing compound numbers, we can use the hyphens for connecting different numbers. Now, let's see. When we are using every word that begins with prefix such as X or self and all, then they will be followed by a hyphen. Ex-president, semi-arid, mid-January, great-grandfather, all those have hyphen marks. Now, how the dashes are different than hyphens, my dear learners. I hope that you are actually listening to the lesson carefully and noting down each and every single punctuation mark. They're very important. Now, the dash is used to indicate a sudden break in thought or emphasis any information. There are two types of dashes, N dash and M dash. You can note it down. One is long, slightly shorter, and the other is a little longer. For both N dashes and M dashes, we do not put any space before or after the dash. For example, 3 to 7, test, retest, or plant in August, October. So M dash is longer. A lot of things, more than you can even imagine, have changed in the last 2 years. Now, when we are separating different clauses and phrases, my dear learners, we use the M dash, the longest dash in our punctuation marks. Use parentheses to give extra additional information in the bracket, and if you don't give this information, it doesn't affect the sentence. The sentence stays the same and it stays correct. Let's see. Amelia Earhart, 1897 to 1937, was a famous aviatrix in the 20th century. Now you can see that in the bracket the date of birth and the date of passing away, they are mentioned, and if you actually omit it, there's no difference in it. We use it to enumerate a list. For example, 1, 2, you can see that these numbers are enclosed with parentheses, and we use parentheses should not be used in excess because they can be distracting. So if you're using over and again in your passage, you are using parentheses so many times, so it will be a little much disturbing to see. Now, my dear learners, here is your worksheet with capitalization. You have to capitalize the word that is the most appropriate, and it is also having an exercise of punctuation followed by capitalization and punctuation exercise together. So you can practice a lot and you can actually solve this worksheet. So for your homework, you have to insert the parentheses, the brackets that we talked about, the round brackets where it is needed. This will be your homework. And all these resources, my dear learners, the worksheet, the presentation that you're seeing right now, and the skill sheet, they will be available in Chases Academy's YouTube channel and also on the website. So you can access it really easily. And students who are sitting over here, you'll get the worksheets, you have to solve them and submit it on time. Thank you so much. I hope that we have covered our students' learning outcome, which was all about standard conventions of English. We talked about capitalization and we talked about using punctuations correctly. We've gone through different kind of punctuation marks. I'll see you in the next video lesson. All you need to do is practice and practice more. Take care of yourselves and Allah Hafiz.